How we doing? My name is CJ Hangartner, and I'm going to be talking about policing and criminalization of the homeless population. Right here is a picture of a homeless camp set up outside of a park in Fairmount, California in 2025. This was this past year, this earlier this year. The significance behind that we will talk about later, why being next to a park is a huge problem and why this city has so many issues with what's going on. First, we're going to talk about that ordinance that was passed on February 11th, 2025, and the effects of the ordinance and what it caused. First off, the camping ordinance prohibits any camping to be done on any public property, sidewalks, parks, streets. Um, so going back to that one picture, the park, with this ordinance in place, you would be fined $1,000 and up to 6 months in jail time. And that is kind of crazy to me, especially with this population and its need for survival at this time. But that is a personal opinion. Aiding and abetting affects effects on the society. So with aiding and abetting, it's helping individuals and when you let me back up, I'm sorry. With this and how it's being shown here, aiding and abetting could cause you to get in trouble if you are helping this population. For example, if you are setting up some structures for this population to survive, you will also be arrested or fined or anything up to that mark. And that's what most people thought at first when this came out. Um, and some of the articles that I was reading, the language was very broad and big, is what the critics said. And after all this was brought out to the board, they said they would only enforce this law for people who set up illegal structures, not for the individuals who provided food and water. So basic needs for the human body to survive, but not giving them structures might have been a little too much. But everybody has their own different viewpoints. I could see both sides. Um, This caused a lot of inequality within the society. Um, for example, with aiding can come consequences with the actions being taken, such as if you give them food and water, that's okay. But if you do any of those illegal structures and help them any more than that, um, major consequences can come with that. I believe this causes inequality on the victims here in the homeless populations because you are taking sources away from the individuals that they need to survive. Um, dun, dun, dun. So personally, what I have seen like online on social media, this population isn't really being treated the best. Like people are using this population for content. I've seen that come up a few times on social media. I thought that was pretty interesting to see. It kind of shows where we as a society are. Um, let's see, people post positive things about them helping the homeless too, which is two different sides. And it's the way our society is using this group shows s- a little bit of systemic prejudice, but we'll get into that later. Um, yeah. So how this is systemic prejudice is that it could be represented as people in power taking away from a lower power, like the little triangle we have of our population of social classes. like the power at the top, and this homeless population would be very, very at the bottom. So you're taking power away, not even any power, just their will to survive at this point. Um, and yeah, like taking away their need for survival, and not allowing this population to live freely with life's circumstances. And I understand why they're doing that because there's a lot of cities getting overpopulated right now because of this, but they're humans and we need to help them any way we can. Um, so the impacts on the justice system is that this doesn't follow human justices. Like it doesn't align with what we believed in when we first started country. Everybody is equal. Um, it kind of puts them in a tough spot as well. So like I said, going back to the both sides, um, like we don't, the justice system doesn't want to completely like cut off people from basic survival in their like in their specific area, but at some point it kind of crosses a line. Like giving them food and water, okay, thank you for specifying that, but we can't give them some shelter so they can not drive, not have it drive them like their mental state insane or very bad to the point where they don't want to live anymore, which could cause a lot more deaths in the area. There's so much stuff going on with that. Um, Morality and beliefs, like nobody wants to take away something from a homeless person, like looking at a sense of good morals. Some people have different views that take over those morals, but sometimes you'll have a police officer that doesn't want to do that to the individual, but they have to do it for their job. And there's a lot that goes into that. Um, I also added following basic constitutional rights with this. Like it goes against the justice system. So, how is it perceived in understanding point of view? So, like I was talking about before, the victim and the offender, like actually, I think that was from a different one that I was going to do. I'm sorry. Forget about that one. Forget about that one. Morality ties into a lot of this stuff. I'm sorry about that. Um, so like thinking about the police officer and let's say someone who's helping in a way of aiding and abetting, the police officer is arresting that person because they built an illegal structure for a homeless individual or population. Um, I wouldn't think another human would genuinely want to arrest somebody for this. So that ties into morality and beliefs. But I mean, there are people out there, it's possible. Everybody has different morals and beliefs. He could also just be doing it for his job. But the arrestee, like their beliefs is that they should help this population with everything they can. A lot of non-profitables, a lot of beliefs like and moralities with this individual versus the police officer. So there's a lot of different things that can tie into that. And then employer, employee, talking more on the systemic side of things, like let's say an individual working for a nonprofit outside of a business supports this and wants to help this homeless population as much as possible, versus the boss who absolutely hates that and is the complete opposite side of the scale. Um, Morality might be there, but no, morality is actually not there at all. Because, I mean, if you're gonna take away from somebody's job just because of their beliefs and their morals towards something that they're passionate about and not allow them to succeed in the workplace, there's going to be a lot of systemic prejudice going on there. Um, so this topic interested me a lot because I grew up in a heavy homeless population in Tucson, Arizona. Like there was a lot, and I would see a lot of situations where people would help, people would not help, people would just ignore. So I was able to see a lot of different points of view on this topic live. And let's see, experience when I was 12. I remember I was actually on each side as well with these experiences. When I was 12, I remember my mom gave um, a homeless individual money, and the next day, not the next day, um, the individual said, "Thanks, I'm going to use this to buy alcohol." And then my mom said, "No, give it back to me. That's what you're gonna do." And then they just ran off. So that was one experience that happened when I was 12. When I was 18, I remember I gave this individual a sandwich. I saw him sitting outside uh where I was getting food at. So I got him a little sandwich, and I was able to be fortunate enough to see him and his dog eat it. So that was pretty cool. Um So there's different ways you could aid and abet like this population, but it's also people's experiences can lead them to believe different things. I was fortunate enough to see both sides of that. Um, State and people. So when looking at this topic, um, you really have to understand the point of view of how these state officials are looking at it, how the people are looking at it, how the homeless individuals are looking at it. When looking at an issue like this, you could see a 3-to-1 like 3-to-1 ratio. Like if everybody is in support of this, um, the state is going against so many people. Let's see. That 3-to-1 ratio, it's where the state is really trying to figure out a solution for the population, and this is the best way they know how to. But they have so many different groups of people fighting against it. It's kind of hard for them to find a solution that would make everybody happy, I would say. But that's what made it kind of intriguing because I just wanted to see what things the state would do in this situation because you can't like you're gonna take away their structure of living. Like you can't give them a um little shack. Like it's interesting to me. And these are my resources. Thank you, and there will be a question right at the bottom.